Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Welcome. My name is Jennifer Sloan, and I'm the president of the Canadian Club of Toronto and your host today. And on behalf of the club, thank you to our live and television audience for joining us. We are extremely proud of our 118-year history as the leading public affairs podium in the country. And we're proud of our commitment to providing a diverse set of guest speakers who address issues in a way that our ever-quickening pace of life rarely allows. Led by a volunteer board of directors, we are dedicated to encouraging open and accessible debate on issues that matter to Toronto, to the province, and to our country. Through our youth and young leader programs, civic action diversity partnerships, accessibility commitments, as well as through our media partnerships and social media properties, we provide opportunities for Canadians around the world to engage with leading political, business, and public figures. Thank you for joining our conversation today. To kick us off, I'd like to ask Madame Leroux to draw two business cards. The first lucky winner will receive an iHome rechargeable battery pack, perfect for keeping your device alive and charged while on the go. And the second winner will receive a bottle of premium Ontario Amarone-style wine from the Foreign Affair Winery, pioneered and owned by Canadian Club member Len Crispino. Lynn Chow, our Executive Director, will announce our winners. Lynn?
Our first winner is José Perceau from Desjardins. And our second winner is Maxime Leroux from Miller Thomson.
Congratulations. Now, please allow me to introduce your head table. Head table guests, please stand as I recognize you and remain standing until everyone's been introduced. And ladies and gentlemen, please hold your applause till everyone's been welcomed. Marc-André Blanchard, Chair and CEO, McCarthy Tétrault, LLP. Jackie McNeish, Senior Writer, Globe and Mail. Anne-Marie Hubert, Managing Partner, Advisory Services, EY. Jim Dinning, Chair, Western Financial Group. Terry Leon, CEO, Leon's. Brent Scowen, Vice President, Customer Experience, Cogeco Cable. Miriam Hashmi, Manager, Management Consulting, KPMG, and a 2014-15 Civic Action Diversity Fellow. Paul Boniferro, National Leader, Practices and People and Partner, McCarthy Tétrault, and a Director of the Canadian Club of Toronto. Martha Durden, President and CEO, Credit Union Central of Canada. Tom Little, President, Bell Business Markets, and our speaker today, Chair of the Board, President and CEO of Desjardins Group, Monique Leroux. Ladies and gentlemen, your head table. I'd like to express special thanks to today's event sponsors, EY, represented by Anne-Marie Hubert, and McCarthy Tétrault, LLP, represented by Marc-André Blanchard. Anne and Marc-André, thank you both for joining us and for making today's event possible. Thank you for your support. Before I introduce our speaker today, I want to let our audience know that you can join our conversation via Twitter and Instagram by following us at CDNCLUBTO or by using that hashtag. Ladies and gentlemen, on your behalf, I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker. The Chair of the Board, President, and CEO of Desjardins Group uses every occasion to promote the benefits of cooperation and innovation. At a Montreal business meeting last spring, the first woman to lead a top 10 financial institution in Canada told the audience that we must adjust the way we do business, we must form partnerships, and be determined to innovate since competition comes from everywhere in our hyper-connected world. Truer words have rarely been spoken. Madame Leroux knows of what she speaks. She oversees the world's second strongest bank. That fact, according to Bloomberg. The Desjardins Group has a consistent record of offering innovative services to its more than 6 million members and clients. It pioneered online and mobile banking services in Quebec. Its global connectivity includes cooperative activities in 30 developing and emerging countries through Développement International Desjardins, DID. Looking at Madame Leroux's curriculum vitae, one cannot help but wonder whether she isn't a real-life superhero. Today's event could easily run into dinner if I covered the many details of Ms. Leroux's background and experience. Suffice it to say, she is an accomplished business visionary. She heads the leading cooperative financial group in Canada. The chair, president, and CEO is also a member of the Canadian Council of Chief Executives, a member of the governing board of Finance Montreal, and serves on a number of cooperative boards internationally. A member of the Order of Canada and l'Ordre National du Québec, she finds time to participate in many not-for-profit organizations. In fact, last year, she chaired the fundraising campaign for the United Way of Montreal. After her remarks, Madame Leroux will be joined in conversation with Jackie McNeish, senior writer at the Globe and Mail. A 7-time National Newspaper Awards winner and author of 3 best-selling books, Ms. McNeish is also an adjunct professor at Osgoode Hall Law School. And now, without further ado, Madame Leroux, the Canadian Club of Toronto's podium, Canada's podium of record, is now yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, through the years, this podium has been graced by prime ministers and premiers. It is also a podium or forum of choice for leaders in business, arts, education, and much more. As CTV broadcaster Lord Robertson said, if someone wants to say something to Canadians about this country or about the future of this country, this is the venue you choose. So I feel very privileged to have this opportunity to speak to you about Canada, but also, of course, about Desjardins. So I'm going to speak very briefly about the Canadian economy. Second, I will talk about the contribution of co-ops and mutuals to Canadians and to the Canadian economy. And finally, I'm going to talk very briefly about Desjardins. And after that, question period with a very renowned journalist. As you well know, the Canadian economy is going through a very challenging time. And there's also a lot of uncertainty and instability in the world. Full-time job creation in Canada has slowed. Oil prices are down significantly, and no one knows when they will recover. Because of oil and other factors, the Canadian dollar is falling, as are interest rates. Yes, we have to face some challenges. But let's look at the opportunities. The diversity of our economy is a very important strength, and we need to continue to build on it. There's much more to our economy than of course, the energy sector and natural resources. In fact, the weaker dollar should help our manufacturers, technology industries, and other exporters across the country. Now, the real danger is that they will grow dependent, once again, on a low dollar. This is not the right formula for success in the long term. Some commentators have compared a low dollar driven export economy to a sugar rush. It gives a lot of short-term boost, but delivers little in the long run. Businesses must take the opportunity to invest more in technology, in innovation, and people to increase productivity and competitiveness. We have known this for a very long time, but now I think it's the time to act. Businesses must also diversify their markets. The US is growing in a way that is very robust. This is very positive for Canada. But it would be a mistake to rely on only one market over the long run. The government has an important role to play in providing the right conditions for success. The free trade initiatives with Asia and Europe are very positive. But much more needs to be done in terms of investment in infrastructure, roads, bridges, especially in Montreal, internet connectivity, particularly in our major cities across the country, and also in education and training. In other words, make it a priority to invest in all those pillars that support the private sector to build a strong, competitive, productive economy. Looking at governments in Canada, it also seems to me that we need to have more collaboration at all levels between the federal government and provinces, but also with our major cities. In some way, and of course, it might be too simplistic. The Desjardins structure is similar to Canada. We have the CAIS, or credit unions, at the local level. We have regional networks of CAIS, like, the provincial level. And we have the federation of networks at the Desjardins Group level, like the national level. Years ago at Desjardins, we recognized that we are much stronger together than we are on our own. So we built on the strength of shared leadership and cooperation. This should be the roadmap for Canada. As Canadians, we have to recognize that our country, in my view, is an ongoing project that will never be finished, and that all of us, governments, businesses, and people, need to work hard together to be the best in the global world. The premiers across the country are developing stronger relationships. Also, judging by their meeting here in Toronto last week, the mayors from cities across Canada have decided to work together. All of this is very positive for our country, and I think that there is reason, of course, to be hopeful. Now, this may surprise you, but an important contributor to our economic diversity is our cooperative sector. I will share some numbers. There are 10,000 cooperatives in Canada. They have 15 million members. On a global basis, the co-op numbers are big. 1 billion co-op members, 100 million co-op employees, generating over 2 trillion revenues. It's quite important. Co-ops have a long history right across Canada. They are an important part of our economy, playing a role in almost every sector. Desjardins Group feels a responsibility to support other co-ops in Canada. For instance, we maintain close business relationships, with about 50 credit unions across the country. Internationally, we have hosted 2 international summits in Quebec City, like, what they do in Davos in Switzerland. And we did that in 2012 and 2014. These brought together co-op and mutual leaders and experts from around the world. The last one, we talk a lot about innovation, we talk about service to members, we talk about food security, financial inclusion, very broad topic, and most importantly, creation of jobs and contribution of businesses to the economy. From a public point of view, co-ops bring many products and services to Canadian consumers, even in remote locations. Co-ops are not subject to hostile takeovers, nor do they export jobs to low-cost areas of the world just to cut costs. And because they don't have shares traded on equity markets, co-ops usually take the long-term view in managing the business. Finally, since they are democratic organizations, and democracy, I think, cannot be taken for granted, they contribute a lot on a daily basis in educating Canadians, elected officers or board members of the various co-ops, about financial matters and the economy. For all those reasons, I believe that it is good for Canada to have a strong, diversified, plural economy composed of a dynamic, well-regulated private sector, an efficient and effective government sector, and of course, a profitable, growing, and innovative co-op sector. Desjardins Group, Canada's largest financial cooperative, nicely fits that description of the co-op sector. I think that we are profitable, growing, and innovative. And I can talk a lot about Desjardins, but sometimes the image is better than a lot of words. So let's look together at a very brief video. So a few words to conclude about State Farm and Desjardins. The State Farm transaction, which was closed in early January, positioned us as the second largest P&C insurer in the country. It solidifies our rank as the 5th largest life and health insurer in the country. It also provides us with a very solid and promising agent network in Ontario, Alberta, and New Brunswick for the distribution of all the Desjardins financial products. The State Farm transaction is also an innovative example of cooperation. 3 of the world's leading cooperatives and mutuals, State Farm in the US, Desjardins in Canada, and Crédit Mutuel in Europe, are investing together in our P&C organization to ensure the transaction is a success. We are very enthusiastic to continue to serve with the support of the State Farm people, the 1.2 million customers that are customers of State Farm. And of course, we are very happy to have the privilege to do it with a highly experienced network of agents. So cooperatives can be innovative and play a significant role in the economy by working together. Talking about innovation, Desjardins is also leading the way with usage-based insurance. Our Adjusto telematics products helps good drivers to save money, and it also encourages good driving approach, which benefits everyone on the road. Looking forward, Desjardins is committed to growing across the country. We want to diversify our markets and client base. We are also committed to investing in technology, innovation, and people. Digital technology is transforming the world, transforming also the way we do business and the way we as people connect to each other. As we know, many Silicon Valley companies and others around the world have their sight on the financial services market. We, at Desjardins, building on our people, are moving forward to meet the challenge. As we face it, it is important and more important than ever that we cooperate, we perform, and we innovate. I think that this is true for Desjardins, but I think it is also true for Canada. Thank you. Is it working?
It's good.
It is.
So thank you everyone for joining us today. Monique doesn't know it, but an hour ago she was responsible for what I consider one of the major breakthroughs in my 30 years as a business journalist in Canada and the United States. I walked into the ladies' washroom of the Royal York Hotel, and there was the CEO of Desjardins, and I had her all to myself for 15 minutes. So for the men in the room, eat your heart out. The ladies' room is where it's at. Good to see you again, Monique.
Yes, it's good to see you.
Outside the ladies' room.
Yes, but you know, we need to always to be careful with very experienced journalists. You know, ladies' room or in the room.
I think you're going to be okay today.
Yes, I'm sure.
As we speak today, oil prices, stock prices of oil companies are crumbling. This is a huge factor for the Canadian economy. And Monique, I think the people in the room today would be very interested in your perspective on what you think the near-term impact is of this train wreck that we're all watching with great concern.
Well, certainly, as I said, you know, it's a challenging time. However, thinking about the oil industry in Canada, I think that, you know, there is certainly some experience in the past, and the industry has been able to recover. I'm looking at Jim Denning, who is the chair of the board of Western, highly experienced person, also knowing quite well the situation in Alberta, and I guess that you would agree with me that, yes, it's going down. It could be for a certain period of time, but I think that, you know, we will be able to come up with some solution. Having said that, it creates opportunities. It creates opportunities for other companies, certainly in Ontario, in Quebec, and elsewhere in Canada. And it is certainly a good time to look in making sure to grow some of our Canadian corporations outside Canada. I think that there is an opportunity there for the exporters, and certainly an opportunity and a reality that we need to invest more. Also, there is a part that has to be played by governments. I was saying that my view is that when we look at, let's take Montreal, but also a little bit Toronto and other cities, I don't think that we could say if for some of the people traveling around the world that we have the most competitive infrastructure supporting our cities and supporting our businesses. And my view is that large cities have to be very competitive in terms of the infrastructure to help the private sector to support, the fact that we have, people, workers traveling around the world. So we need to be much more competitive. So I think that there is an interesting part to play, and that's why a collaboration between cities and provinces, and we have, different histories around the country where sometimes the collaboration between cities, provinces, and the federal government is not always optimal. So I think that there is an opportunity to hack here.
And I guess the difference about this commodity crisis right now is that 10 or 15 years ago, when we had our last major slump, not including the financial crisis, we had a much more robust manufacturing sector in Canada, particularly in the auto sector. So it's a smaller contributor to the GDP. Yes. Do we have enough manufacturing clout in this country to build our exports?
That's a big question, and that's why I think that we have, as CEO of large organization, this obligation sometimes to invest for the long term. I'm taking another example, using Desjardins just to provide some indication of my thinking. If I look at the situation, it would be very easy for us sometimes to reduce the amount of investments that we do in different projects and technology, for example. And when you do that, of course, you can have very nice earnings and so forth. But the question that you need to look is that, are we investing enough for the future? Are we able to be there for the next phase and so forth? So I think that CEOs in this country have certainly a role to play in making sure that during those times we need to have the good balance to look long term and make the right investment for the future. And it brings also training programs for our people. The Council of Canadian Chief Executive has indicated that there should be maybe a target of at least 2% every year. At Desjardins, we are at 3%, and I believe it's very, very important. And of course, a better alignment of training, education programs, and needs for the right workers and the right working force is also another priority.
It's interesting that you mentioned long-term, because one of the great debates, particularly for public companies today, is the struggle between the short-term point of view and the long-term point of view. And there are many CEOs who live in fear of getting calls from certain activists in New York that can make your life very difficult because of their shorter perspective. What advantage do cooperatives have as a result of not being publicly listed and being representing a collective? What are you able to do that other financial institutions in this country are not able to do?
Well, it's an interesting question, and I have to say that for any kind of organization, thinking long-term is always a challenge. Because you don't know the future, and sometimes you need to take some decisions that, you are not absolutely sure about, what will be the outcome. Having said that, co-ops in general, first of all, you have a lot of people involved into the decision process, which could be sometimes challenging. On the other end, it provides you with a lot of input and some thinking to make sure that when you will be making the decision, it will not be for 1 or 2 or 3 quarters. It will be for a mid-long-term basis. So that's one thing. So the governance brings us to think naturally more on a long-term basis. The other aspect of co-op is that there is a connection also which is quite close to members. For example, in Quebec, or even in Ontario, when we do some transformation with the case, we have to make sure that there is an alignment with the needs of the members, which means that, again, some of the transformation that we will be doing will have to be well connected to the needs of consumers and members. So again, this will bring us to think a little bit more long term. And the third aspect is that, again, since we do not have shares on the market, it will bring us to think in a way that when we look at the size of investment portfolio in projects mid, long term, this will bring us to think in a way that we will look at the performance with a perspective of 2 to 3 years in terms of looking at the overall financial performance. Another example that I could say is that when we did a cooperative agreement with Crédit Mutuel, and we are working, for example, in a very challenging topic, which is the payments, the payment services to small businesses and to consumers, we need to take a long term. It's impossible to invest in those initiatives without a view for the next quarter. But we feel that our customers and our members deserve that we invest for the long term. So this is another example why I think co-ops can bring a longer term perspective in the way we manage the business.
All right. Now, you mentioned State Farm.
Yes.
Big acquisition. I think a lot of people in the insurance industry would like to know how you think you're going to be able to make a profit, particularly in Ontario, where there are a lot of losses. So just between you and me, what do you know that the other insurers don't know?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and of course, we started to have conversation with State Farm US in 2012, and we started to have discussions at the board level during 2013 and 2014. So we had time to think very carefully about that. And what you are saying about the auto insurance industry in this province is a real issue. However, we believe that with the experience we've been able to develop across the country, with the expertise of our people, and I would say the work that is underway with the government and IBC, representing the insurers, in the country, I believe that there will be some interesting potential. Of course, State Farm, the State Farm transaction is not just about the Ontario auto industry. However, it's a big part of it. I have to say also that I don't want to throw the ball to somebody else, but I have the privilege, to work with a very solid team of people. And I would like to say hello, I don't know where she is, but Sylvie Paquette, who is our leader of our P&C insurance sector. And she will be, by the way, very soon the chair of the board of IBC. So she will be certainly. So Sylvie, where are you?
She's hiding.
Room? Oh, okay. So, congratulations. And again, I could say hello to Barbara Bellissimo, who is also the leader of State Farm here she's in the room. So, I guess that maybe with the Premier of Ontario, with a lady, and with Sylvie and Barbara and other, well, maybe there could be some solution.
Okay, we're taking the conversation back to the ladies' room.
Why not?
You're the rarest of thing in the financial sector in this country, which is a female CEO. Why is diversity so difficult in the financial sector in this country? For example, I'm going to put him on the spot. 2 years ago, I interviewed Ed Clark, the former CEO of Toronto Dominion Bank, who's a very enlightened individual. And I asked him, how long before you think we'll see a female at the top of the Toronto Dominion Bank or any bank in Canada? And he very thoughtfully responded with great optimism, sometime within the next 20 years. Are we satisfied with this state of affairs?
No. The answer to that, no. Well, we need to put things in perspective. If we were to have that conversation 40 years ago, I think that there would not be a lot of women in the room, and not a lot of experienced women also. So that's one aspect. So the need for the evolution and bring the competence, the experience, and so forth had to be done, and I think it has been done. And I'm looking at the room, and I can see another lady very active, Madame Johnson, Alexa Johnson, who is the president of Catalyst. So I think that there's a lot of work going on right now. Certainly at Desjardins, it's a priority. I was saying that we have Sylvie, we have Barbara, we have other. I don't want, and we have also other excellent men. So the important but I mean that's true. The important thing is to bring the diversity. I believe personally in diversity. I was talking about the diversity of the economy. I'm thinking the same with the diversity of people, and you need to have a good balance between men and women. Look in society, in the world, where there are some issues. I'm not saying it's the only reason. It would be too simplistic. But I think that when in a society, in an economy, in a business, in an organization, you have a good balance between men and women, you have a better organization. The other thing is that you have half of the population and the competencies of people with women. So as an organization, I think it is very obvious that we need to move forward. Now, it doesn't come naturally. I think that you need to be very, very committed, certainly as the CEO of the organization, to bring the talent and the experience into the executive ranks. You need sometimes to establish internal goals to get there. You need to look at blockers in the organization and systems that sometimes provides a BA. You need to correct that, to address that. And you need to do the same thing with board, and that's what we've decided to do at Desjardins. We had a big convention with all the elected officers in 2013, and we came up with an objective of diversity, 50-50, plus and minus 10%. When I look at the elected officer of Desjardins with the CAES in Ontario and Quebec, well, we are over 35% women and men. So we are really going the right direction. And I think that this will have, with our growing strategy in Canada, this will have an impact. And I'm quite sure that other large financial institutions will move forward.
Well, on that note, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
First, let me thank our moderator today, Jackie McNish from the Globe and Mail. Thank you for doing such thorough preparation in the ladies' room beforehand. Your precision and thoroughness in this process is much appreciated. Madame Leroux, merci beaucoup. Thank you on behalf of the Canadian Club of Toronto and on behalf of our sponsors, Anne-Marie and her partners from E&Y and Marc-André Blanchard and our partners from McCarthy Tetra. We thank you for your passionate advocacy for business cooperation and innovation. It's no wonder that the Desjardins Group consistently ranks among the best places to work in Canada. Might have something to do with you picking your colleague's card out of the draw. But also your passion and leadership is obviously very important and a key to the fact that your organization is consistently being ranked one of the world's strongest financial institutions. The group's global ranking and positive results, I think, are a testament to your commitment to making the world a better place, and for that we applaud your courage and your leadership. Your advice about about acting now to contribute to the long-term prosperity here and abroad, I believe, is being listened to. We note that more and more businesses and governments are reaching across sectors and borders to advance a more advance and promote your vision of cooperation, and your personal leadership, I believe, is making a difference. You've taken the cooperative approach and structure not just beyond the borders of Quebec, but indeed to the elite tier of the financial services sector and now the insurance sector. May I extend best wishes for continued success to you and your colleagues in all that you do to contribute to our nation and indeed our world's prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and I'd like to echo your message of thanks to Madame Leroux and to Jackie for a spirited question and answer session. I'd also once again like to thank and express our special thanks to event sponsors EY and McCarthy Tetro LLP. Thank you for your support. Now, before we adjourn for lunch, I'd like to quickly tell you about some of our upcoming events. On March 2nd, CP Rail CEO Hunter Harrison will join us to share his thoughts on the North American transportation industry, the transition from cost control to growth, and the realities of regulation in the modern marketplace. And on April 28th, we are proud to recognize one of the country's most distinguished Canadians. The Right Honourable Paul Martin will be our 2014 Lifetime Achievement Award winner, and it's an award that celebrates the lifelong efforts and leadership of extraordinary Canadians. For a full listing of the club's upcoming events and to order tickets, you can visit our website at canadianclub.org. And finally, before I adjourn today's meeting, I'd like to draw your attention to the event survey cards on each of your tables. The Canadian Club is always looking for ways to improve your experience, so please take a minute to help us by sharing your thoughts and comments, including whether you like our new shortened luncheon format this season. We very much appreciate your feedback. This concludes our program today, which will be broadcast on Rogers TV in the days to come. We'd like to thank mediaevents.ca, Canada's online event space, for live webcasting today's event. We're also grateful to Rogers TV and 680 News for their continuing promotion of Canadian Club events. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please rise as you are able and join me in a toast to Canada. To Canada. Thank you for being an engaged and attentive audience this afternoon. Please enjoy your lunch.